Have you seen Star Wars?
Today's episode of the Book of Boba Fett, called The Tribes of Tatooine, delivers on all fronts and leaves no room for doubt that Boba Fett is the badass that we all know and love. But before we get into today's review of the episode, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to pay tribute to Boba. So this episode, in my opinion, it's exactly what I was looking for in the first episode of Book of Boba that came out last week. Warning, this review does contain spoilers ahead, so tune out if you haven't watched the latest episode. This episode starts out with an assassination attempt on Boba himself, and it's pretty funny because they drop the guy into the Rancor pit in order to scare him into revealing who was the person who sent him. And it was pretty epic to see that, but it was also really funny when the Rancor pit was empty, and I was really surprised at how much I laughed during this episode. There were so many moments like this, even throughout the flashbacks, that I genuinely laughed at what Boba was going through, what he was saying, and Tamara Morrison's reactions to things as Boba. I mean, it was really funny of an episode, and I'm glad that it kind of has that humor that really feels like classic Star Wars to me. It's cool that we got to meet the mayor early on, who ends up giving Boba some advice that leads him to a confrontation with two sibling Hutts. They're the cousins of Jabba the Hutt, and they're trying to reclaim Jabba's territory, and I'm a big fan of mob and mafia movies, so seeing this kind of tension between two crime gangs in Star Wars excites me a lot. Plus, when Fennec said that they need permission to kill the Hutts, it's just like being a made man in the mob. It's so cool to me. The last spoiler warning I'm going to give you right here before we get into this cameo, but we did have a cool cameo of a Wookiee bounty hunter named Black Chrysanthemum. He is working for the rival Hutts, and I know we're going to see more of him in the series, and maybe he even fights Boba or Fennec. These kind of cameos work on two levels. They introduce the casual audience to a new, cool-looking villain that they can immediately recognize off visual cues, but for us Star Wars fans who keep up with the comics and canon, we're excited to see a cameo go from print to screen. To me, the real highlights of this episode are the flashbacks. It's seeing the flashbacks with Boba Fett and the Tusken Raiders. He learns their ways of life, but what also adds to this is it brings a lot of humanity to these people that we've long thought were just mindless raiders with no morals who lived out in the sand. I still think Boba will end up leading the Tusken Raiders as well as run the crime on Tatooine, making him a very powerful leader and probably the most powerful person on Tatooine in general. But it was really cool watching him train with the Tusken Raider who was teaching him martial arts and everything, the one who beat him earlier, and how that Tusken Raider kept being a figure throughout the entire episode and still really badass throughout everything. It's really cool to see Boba Fett train and become a better fighter. It shows him at a more vulnerable state of a character, and he's living a rough life after Return of the Jedi, and it isn't until he proves himself to the Tusken Raiders that they can really welcome him into their tribe. What took me by surprise was the flashbacks to Boba's childhood. We got to see a young Boba Fett, shout out to my boy Daniel Logan, and he watches Jango Fett fly away on the ship, the Slave One, and it adds more depth to Boba's character because we see in that one shot, that one very simple shot, that Boba hated when his father left him on Kamino. And though it's a very small scene, it adds a lot of connection to Boba as a character, and we can even sympathize with them. I mean, who doesn't remember hating their parents leaving when they're very, very young? And so seeing that not only adds humanity to Boba, when you didn't really need humanity for him, but it just, like I said, makes you sympathize with him and realize there's a lot of emotion to this character we haven't explored yet. I'm really surprised at how this episode made me feel different about the Tusken Raiders. Seeing them learn how to ride a speeder bike for the first time was funny, but like I said earlier, it adds to their humanity, and I find myself feeling kind of bad when they're killed by people on the train and the crew that was taking them out. I felt bad seeing the Banthas and the Tusken Raiders getting shot. I was like, wow, I actually care about these Tusken Raiders that are dying, and I never would have expected that. If you told me a few years ago I would care about Tusken Raiders dying in Star Wars, I would have called you crazy. I mean, this episode completely switched up things for me. The first episode, I said I hated the flashbacks, and I loved seeing Boba and Fennec run the new crime lord stuff. In this episode, I love both of them. I love seeing the flashbacks. I actually love the flashbacks more than I like the current setting and timeline of the show, but I also loved seeing Boba go around Mos Espa, talk to the Hutts. I thought that was a really great scene with a lot of tension in it. Seeing Black Chrysanthemum show up was really cool. So many epic moments in this one episode. This episode was directed by a lady named Steph Green. She is an Oscar and Emmy nominated director, and you can see why. She really set up some beautiful sequences, mainly with the action. I love the editing in this episode as well. The episode was of course written by Jon Favreau, who I have a very strong hunch that this episode he was writing at the same time as he was writing episode 1, and I'm pretty confident there were some drafts that either all the flashbacks happened in one episode, or everything that we've seen in the past two episodes dealing with Boba and Fennec, like on Mos Espa, were supposed to be one episode. So I feel like they had like a rough outline that they kind of changed up, because there are a lot of situations where I feel like the episodes could have been combined or something like that. You'll have to watch both of them again to see what I'm talking about, but the way they did this episode was perfect. I don't really have any complaints about this episode. It was fun, it was funny, it had great pacing, it kept my attention throughout the entire runtime, and I just really enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to. This is like fun Star Wars to me. This is like the easy watch Star Wars, that it's very digestible, it's engaging, and you end up caring more about what's happening in the story. My rating for this episode is an 8 out of 10. This is an episode you can easily watch and repeat. It adds so much to Boba as a character, and it makes him very intimidating. My favorite line of the episode was him saying, "You know damn well who I am," when he was talking to the mayor. I mean, that, oh my god, that was great writing, great dialogue, great episode, but that line itself just really hit home in the badassness for Boba Fett. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think of today's episode, the Book of Boba Fett, the Tribes of Tatooine, and leave a like on today's video if you did enjoy that episode. Subscribe to stay up to date on the latest news in Star Wars, and don't forget, guys, check out Tatooine tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time when we cover both episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. We have the links to the Tatooine Twitter, Instagram, and official YouTube channel all in the description below. Thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time. Until then, may the Force be with you, always.